Welcome. I'm Gary Kopp. I'm here with Pete Lucido, your Lansing legislator. Number 13, Pete. Lucky 13, I hope.
Lucky 13.
Yeah. Last week we went to the, and here's the sign,
Macomb County Chamber.
Macomb County Chamber meeting, and we had, it was an interesting meeting for me to sit there and watch a table full of state representatives. Basically, if the debate there was anything like the debates that's on the floor, it was pretty eye-opening.
Sure was.
5 topics came up: prevailing wage, the roads, no-fault insurance reform, energy, and then education and municipal consolidations.
Right.
And I think the conversation revolved around each one of those topics. Definitely not enough time in order to get into any kind of depth. But so what I want to do here today is go through and talk about as many of these as we can possibly get through in a half hour.
Well, we had a breakfast, legislative breakfast on a Friday morning at 7:30 in the morning. And, you know, when you're bringing up those kind of topics, that's a day or two or
Sure.
weekend expansion.
Sure.
But to listen to the arguments as to what needs to be done, it was no different than my newsletter that went out to the entire
Right.
36th district. I was asking all of those, give me what you think is the most important thing. Tell me what your thoughts are on this, so that if I have to vote on any one of these issues, I know where I stand. And I had probably about 1,000 or better come back.
Good.
And we did an analysis and looked at statistical data as it relates to where does the 36th district lie in here. We found out that prevailing wage, for instance, it was like right down the middle. Certain
really?
individuals wanted reform, they want it taken out, and certain said, no, don't do that because the quality, the workmanship will suffer versus price. So you pay for what you get, some of these individuals are saying. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got that on here. We'll dig into that prevailing wage a little bit
Sure.
here in a minute. I understand you passed your first bill.
I did.
What's that mean?
What's that mean? Well, it looks like I made good sausage.
Somebody bought the sausage.
Somebody bought it. Anyways, it got out of the House 100 and whatever, and it went through the Senate, and the governor signed the bill, and I'm pretty proud because generally a first-termer, they don't get anything passed. But I'm happy because it's good law.
Which bill was it?
It has to do with Michigan forfeiture laws.
Okay.
It raises the standard. So if you're going to take property from law enforcement, you have a higher threshold, a higher burden to prove. And you know, I'm grateful because of the fact that it was something I saw in practice for so many years. It just made good business sense. It just made good family sense, and it made good relationships with the community.
Okay, well, good. So I'm not a lawyer, you are. The burden of proof was raised from 50% to 75%, is that what it means?
Preponderance is 51, just tipping the scales, and I
Okay.
went to 75, which is clear and convincing.
Okay.
And for that, it means that if you're going to take property that the police claim or law enforcement officials claim is an instrumentality of a crime or assessments of crimes, that there's a little bit higher threshold than just grabbing property. And most people won't fight. For 51%, it's just a small undergoing. Again, criminal acts are different than the civil acts, which is forfeiture. Forfeiture is civil. It's not criminal.
Oh,
But a criminal act is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is 100%.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right. I guess the major topic that's on the topic of everybody's mind right now is the roads. I understand that the House has pushed a bill into the Senate, and I want to talk about that for a little bit. But I want to
Just
give
this
you
last Wednesday, the House passed a plan to fix the roads with $600 million of new money and $600 million coming out of the general fund. The governor wanted new money or he wouldn't pass any proposals.
Okay.
He said, we're not cutting any of our budget of the state, but we need to have new money revenue generated. I don't know how you do that when you have a family and you're on a fixed income and you don't have the money in the bank, but you keep taking money out of the bank, which is the $600 million from the general fund. This is what passed. I did not vote for the whole package. I voted for certain parts of the package that I thought made sense to the people here in the 36th district.
Okay, and we'll go through each one of those topics. Revenue from the road bill.
Yep.
Diesel tax increase.
Okay, let me give it to you in encapsulation because we're limited on time on the
Yeah.
program here. We have an increase of about 3.5 cents per gallon on gas and about a 9% or a 9-cent increase on diesel.
Okay.
We also have, and that's going to bring in roughly, they claim, $200 million a year.
Okay.
So every time you go to the pump and you put your nozzle in there, I voted no. So say, good job, Lucido, because here's why. I didn't want to tax anybody, any new money out of their pocket. The registration, we have 7 million cars and vehicles, cars and trucks that are registered in the state a year.
Yeah.
7 million. The registration fees also went up, and they went up roughly, I'm going to say about $40 a car, and about, give or take, depending on the weight and the cost of the vehicle, let's call it $100 roughly on the bigger vehicles.
Okay.
When you get all done, they claim $55 is the average cost on a vehicle registration.
Okay.
That'll bring in $400 million. So the new revenue was from the gas tax increase and the vehicle registration. That's $600 million.
$600 million.
The other $600 million is coming out of the general fund. Well, general fund meant when I was, and my wife, we would put our money into the bank, use only the money that we needed to live, or have money extra and surplus for what's called rainy day.
Yeah.
If we take out $600 million each year from the general fund, there's a presumption that we're going to have it, which who knows if we are, and there's a presumption of whether or not we're going to need it for other projects, which who knows whether we will. So that didn't make a lot of sense, but it passed the House. And I've told all the viewers out there before, I'm going to keep on saying it, there's 110 House members, and because we have 3 less, there was 2 that were removed from the State House, and 1 that went to take another job. There's 107 of us. 54 votes is all it needed to pass out of the House. It passed out of the House with 54 votes.
Was it exactly 54?
Well, some of them were really tenuous,
Really?
but 56, you know,
Wow.
right there. That being said, the Senate's got to approve it. The Senate may not approve any of the House plan,
Yeah.
but if the Senate does approve it, it will end up with the governor and be signed into law. And there's where you get $1.2 billion. Remember, the viewers have to remember the governor said he will not sign any plan, will not even entertain it, unless it dealt with new revenue. New revenue means monies that are generated beyond what we have.
Okay.
That being said, the new revenue is coming from the gas tax, diesel and regular, which ultimately, and also the vehicle registration, which ultimately the truckers who pay more for registration, who pay more for diesel, is going to ultimately levy on the consumer, that's us, for pricing.
Okay.
Prices will go up.
We're going to continue this thought. We've got to take a break right now. We'll be right back. I'm here with Pete Lucido, your Lansing legislator.
Jenna, is everything okay in there?
Just a minute, Grandma.
And welcome back. Again, I'm Gary Kopp. I'm here with Pete Lucido, your Lansing legislator. Pete, we were just rolling into this road tax thing, which I know is a big deal. Everybody's curious about what the bill entails and all that other stuff. We talked about the finances. We talked about the registration increase. We talked about the fuel tax, diesel going up. What else is in the bill?
Well, as far as the registration goes, I want everybody to remember if you itemize your deductions, the itemized deductions means that you'll be able to itemize what you pay for a vehicle registration and be able to deduct it from your income tax.
Because that's a personal property. Okay.
In regards to the gas tax, you deduct nothing. So every time you fill up, you're paying 3.5 cents more per gallon in tax. And if it's diesel, you're paying 9 cents more per gallon. There's no itemized deduction. There is no credit.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And I thought that when you look at the overall picture here about gas tax versus registration fee increase, you've got a difference of distinction here where one's a tax and one's a fee, but in the grand scheme of things, it's all on the burden of the consumer. It's all on us.
Right, we pay.
The other things are as follows. we're going to be able to have better warranties. There was 3 bills that were passed out of the State House, and it doesn't mean it's law yet because it has to go through Senate and have a hearing. But 3 bills that were passed out of the House dealing with our own townships. If we put money into the roads of 50% or more, or over $50,000, there's got to be an RFP. I
That's
know.
a request for proposal.
Yeah,
It's
you
like a
have to.
quote,
I mean,
a bid.
we have skin in the game then, so why shouldn't we have determination of the outcome?
Sure.
And again, dealing with MDOT, if it's $100,000 or more, we want an RFP. We want MDOT to prepare an RFP on these projects, and we want them to look at as far as the warranties, which is another bill that MDOT, as well as local roads, which would mean our township roads with the county road department, we want to secure warranties. We have had these problems with crumbling roads and crumbling infrastructure. Where's the warranty? And we want some bite into it because you could see there was a mismanagement of MDOT. There was. Where were they enforcing warranties? They weren't. Taxpayers kept paying, didn't get the benefit of the bargain, which was the warranties. They should have gotten with the roads. And then there was also a income tax credit that would come back on the homestead. All I can tell you is if you are filing as a middle class, you'll get about $250 back. If you're filing as a senior citizen couple, you'll get about $118 back. And if you're filing as an individual, you get about $93 back.
Okay.
That's part of the package. But again, taxpayers were very clear, especially in the district I serve, 36, don't mix apples and oranges and make a fruit salad. Give me a proposal that goes exclusively to the roads. These monies of $1.2 billion a year goes exclusively to the roads, but it's ramped up. It's not 1.2 overnight. It's roughly 400 million, 440 million, 750 million in 2019, 950 million, and then $1.2 billion in 2021.
And we talked about that too. And this plan does tend to make a little more sense now instead of having the 1.2 initially, because we talked about that before. We don't have the labor, we don't have the resources in Michigan. If I gave you a check for 1.2 billion, you couldn't spend it anyway.
Couldn't spend it. Don't even have the equipment, the laborers, the ingredients, which is the concrete, and the aggregate, which is the engineered sand. And road builders will tell you, I can't spend that. It's going to take me time to ramp it up. And let's face it, I want to know what projects are identified first and foremost as the most severe, so we stop the injuries and we stop the tires getting blown out and all of the other struts and shocks and everything else that have been going on. The interesting argument is, if the Senate doesn't act on this plan and doesn't have one of their own, we are no farther than getting these roads fixed. In fact, we're at a gridlock, a deadlock. You know, again, this is not something I dreamed of having. Being a first termer, just getting up there, I thought it was pretty clear what that was happening on May 5th with these voters. They said no increase. Doesn't matter. 54 votes kicks it out of the House. So I'm only one vote of the 107 votes that voted on this proposal.
But the thing I found curious about this was the speed with which it came out. And I know, and we talked about the your proposal to use the MCCA money.
Interest only.
Interest only. And yet that bill hasn't seen the light of day.
No other bills have seen the light of day. There is other bills. They haven't seen the light of day because the committee chairman in transportation needs to take those bills up or has been told not to take them up. One or the other. Because that's how it starts.
So in spite of the fact that, well, there's two of us at least that think it's a really good idea, it's just, oh, well, I don't think so, so go away.
I can only tell you this, Lansing may not think it's a good idea, but I've heard from every ounce of energy of this state, and they said, this is a great idea because it doesn't use new resources, it uses existing resource, which is the interest from a fund that was put into place by the people.
So do you think there's some external pressure being put on somebody to
There can
kind of
only
stay away from
only
this?
be people that don't want it taken up because it may cause a lot of discussion. And I always remember what Mom said, if you get them talking, you'll come up with a solution. If you never get them talking, how can you ever come up with a solution?
Wow. Well, I guess that's really what your job is supposed to be over there, isn't it? You're supposed to be debating these kinds of things, discussing it, the mingling of the minds, the meeting of the minds. Okay.
conservative, good
Yeah.
government,
Yeah.
being American. That's what it was supposed to be.
By the people, for the people.
Yeah.
Imagine that. What a concept. The one thing I noticed that this bill does not address, again, is the weight limit. And I
Yep.
know I've heard people that are saying, hey, well, we are 164,000, we should be back at 80 like the rest of the world.
That's a good point.
Not in there.
And I'll tell you right now, there is 3 bills that I'm aware of weight limits, and that hasn't even been addressed. And you can pass the best road packages out there, whether it's new tax, new revenue, new whatever, but if you're not going to fix the existing problem, which is the weight,
Yeah.
how do you go ahead and pay for something that you know will eventually have failure? It's not good government.
It certainly doesn't seem like it is to me.
Nope.
So at the end of the day, there's going to be, this bill proposes a tax increase. There's going to be some warranties. It doesn't address the vehicle weight thing. Registrations are going to go up.
Yep.
So I think
Stay tuned is what
Yeah,
I'd say to
stay
the
tuned.
viewers, because the
Yeah.
viewers ought to know if this is going to get tweaked, modified, and or approved. It still has to be signed by the governor
Yeah.
to become law.
Yeah. The thing that I'm curious about, and we'll leave it at that, I'll get my last word in, as it were. I'm curious as to what the people think. Would they rather see a tax increase at the pump and just pay for it all at once when I'm putting gas into my car? Whether I should just pay it all at once with a registration increase? Or is it a blending of the two, kind of like this bill is proposing? So I'll leave you with that thought. I
Leave
really,
the viewers with that thought,
Yeah.
because stay tuned. We don't know what's going to come out of the Senate.
I don't know what's going to come out. Okay, I'm Gary Kopp. I'm here with Pete Lucido, your Lansing legislator. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Gary Kopp, here again with Pete Lucido, your Lansing legislator. Well, Pete, I think we beat the roads to death, as we always do. It's always a topic that's on everybody's mind. Let's move on. You've got some meetings that you're putting together here.
Right.
November 16th here.
That's a Monday.
Monday, coffee, cookies, calories, conversation with
Right.
Pete.
You know
Tell us
what?
about it.
Coffee Cookies Conversation with Pete is going to be Monday, November 16th. Monday, November 16th here in Shelby Township.
Shelby.
We'll be right here in the hall for the seniors. And then
What time?
it starts at 9
9
o'clock,
o'clock, okay.
and it's over by 10:30.
Okay.
And then Tuesday evening, the next day, November 17th. Tuesday, November 17th, we're going to be up in Washington Township
Okay.
in their municipal hall to do what's called an identity theft and identity awareness, that you don't get your identity stolen. We'll be right back here on Wednesday, November 18th.
18th.
Wednesday, November 18th in Shelby Township in the municipal hall. We're doing these identity thefts
That's at 7 o'clock too, by the way.
7 o'clock p.m.
Okay.
till 9. Thanks, Gary. We're doing these because in the spirit of the holidays that's coming up, given the nature of it's almost Thanksgiving and people are going to be out shopping, they're going to be using their credit card. They're going to have packages sent to their house. They're going to have mail coming to their house. All of these things, I want them to be on guard. It will be a scary, if not a sad holiday, if they lose their identity. Why? People will put them through turmoil and torture to get it back.
Yeah.
They have a lot of things, a lot of great information by the Attorney General's office, great information by our local law enforcement officials, both Shelby and the Sheriff's Department. They are going to bring right in your face the ideas that you need to protect yourself and your family from losing your identity.
Okay, for those of us who don't understand what identity theft really means, what is it in a nutshell?
Somebody gets a hold of your bank statement, somebody gets a hold of your credit card, somebody gets a hold of your driver's license,
Okay.
somebody gets a hold of any information that would lead to believe that it's you, and they use your identity to get credit and or to seek an opportunity to take that which will ruin your credit.
Okay, so with this information, they have access to your funds, your bank account, your Social Security number, that kind of thing, which would be used against you.
Correct. And people are using their cell phones right now to be buying things because in the spirit of quickness, they just punch in their cell phone, their credit card number. Is that protected? Stay tuned, because if you come on Tuesday, November 17th, over to Washington Township from 7 to 9, or Wednesday, November 18th, here in Shelby Township, Township Hall, 7 to 9, same time, you will be able to get the information necessary to protect yourself. I encourage all family members, seniors, anyone out there to take part in this. It is explosive.
So who's going to be here? Who's the cast of characters they're going to
Shelby Township local law enforcement.
Okay.
We're going to have also somebody from the AG, the Attorney General's office.
Okay.
We'll have specialists that will protect and provide your information and tell you how to do it. Might as well get it. It's free. Nothing's really free today, but this is free. Just show up at the hall from 7 to 9. Take advantage of it. It's important.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, so that I think we've explored that a little bit. No fault insurance reform. Back on that one again. We know that medical costs are going crazy. My wife fell off her bike and broke her arm, her elbow. Went into the hospital. I just got the bill from that. I think it was on Friday. She was in the operating room for about 6 hours. The bill from the hospital was $41,000. Can you imagine? $41,000. I looked at that. Well, of course, the insurance company comes in. They said, well, we're not going to pay that. They have some negotiated fee. But I'm just wondering out there, with this insurance reform thing that really needs to happen, these hospitals are supposed to be nonprofit.
Yeah, well,
somebody's making some money here someplace.
Something needs to be done, because ultimately it's the taxpayers again that are going ahead and shouldering all of this burden. And the reality is we've started the discussions now regarding Michigan no-fault reform, but we have to find out first how a claim is assessed, how it's paid, before you get to the end result is how do you reform it. If we don't know those figures from the Michigan catastrophic claim, we don't know how they're assessed, we don't know how much the administrative cost is and everything else, how do you go ahead and reform something if you're in the blind and you're in the dark? You can't do it. But something needs to be done, because I'm sick and tired, and I think everybody said enough is enough. We are the highest state for car insurance. We're the highest state with medical costs. Why are we the highest? Because we deliver the best? Seems to be a little bit disingenuous to the customer, which is us.
Yeah, some would argue that. You said you put in a bill to help try to minimize, get these folks off the road that are not insured. Has that gone anywhere?
Mayor Dugan has said that 2/3 of Detroit are driving around without car insurance. They can buy a 7-day policy. I'm a little bit disenchanted by the fact that if I go to the Secretary of State with a 7-day policy, I'm going to get a plate that's going to last me till my birthday, which could be 9 months. There's a presumption our Secretary of State felt that you were going to pay for the next 9 months, your insurance. That's not happening.
It ain't happening.
So they're putting, everybody is put at risk without driving without insurance. Those that are legal are paying into the uninsured motorist fund more money, and the Michigan Catastrophic Claims Fund is not receiving the full benefit of any of those monies that should be put in there, which is ultimately raising our premium. Those things, my bill says, when you got an uninsured driver, tow the car away, put it in an impound yard, make that driver go buy insurance again, make him buy a plate again, because I want the plate destroyed, and then make him go ahead and pay for the fee of the cost of the impound and the tow, as well as a fine of $1,000. That will make those individuals buy insurance and keep it on their car, because they're going to have to scramble to get their car out. It only burdens them, not me, who's legal.
Exactly. And this morning we had a coffee and cookies with Pete up in Romeo.
Yep.
And there was a lady there who was saying her granddaughter had got rear-ended, stopped at a light, got hit by an uninsured motorist, and her granddaughter's insurance rate went up.
Chargeable claim. That's what they do. The insurance company said, even though you're not at fault and you were rear-ended because the driver failed to stop within a clear short distance, the rate went up because they repaired the car and they put a surcharge on it. This is nonsense.
It's unbelievable.
Michigan no fault was never intended for what's going on now. Never.
No.
But it needs reform, and it needs desperate reform now.
It certainly does. I feel sorry for her, because it's just unfortunate that she was in the right spot at the wrong time, got hit by an uninsured driver, why was that uninsured driver even on the road? I want this bill to go through.
Oh, I do too. And I think that there's enough advocates.
I hope
LA
so.
Insurance, who sells a 7-day program, said, we like it because we're going to sell more insurance. The tow truck drivers like it because they're going to tow cars away.
Oh, yeah.
The impound like it because they're going to have storage fees.
Imagine.
And if you don't pay those fees, within 30 days under state statute, they can sell the car to pay themselves for the
their
tow
money back.
and the impound. And last, the Secretary of State should love it, and I'll tell you why. The Secretary of State will sell another plate to those individuals,
Double dippers.
and the money goes to the roads because the Secretary of State money
Beautiful.
goes to the roads. So any new plates that are sold more than once
Nice.
are going to continue to go for the roads. So
Good plan.
who's the advocate against it? Maybe the people that aren't paying.
Yeah.
We're the ones paying. We have the louder voice, and we're going to have it with our vote.
God, I hope that bill comes out of committee. Holy cow. All right. What about energy? I heard some folks talking about, you see a lot of energy advertisements on TV. They're talking about vote against this, call your legislator. What's going on with this?
Let me give you the heart of it. In Macomb County, in the whole state, we have choice, which is 10% of the market. Our government in Macomb County, our Michigan providers have 10% of choice, but I have our Utica community schools are saving money, our Macomb community college is saving money with choice, our government, which is our Macomb County government, is saving money with choice. I think that you see a lot of propaganda, if you will, a lot of lobbying. You know, watch it, we're not going to have power. Here's the reality. 10% choice, that means that DTE is still sharing 90% of the market. I'm not against it. They've been good partners. They've been reliable. The energy's been there for the most part. The reality is, don't take away the choice because it'll ultimately cost taxpayers more money. If I'm not getting a break from my schools and my government and everywhere else, it ultimately is going to fall on the backs of the taxpayers to pay more money. We're talking about millions of dollars savings. So don't take away the 10% choice, but beware that propaganda that's being sent out is not from my office or Senator Jack Brandenburg's. It's sent out by those people lobbying to keep at least their 10% or the other side that wants to have deregulation altogether. Okay. The reality is, let's all save money. It's less out of our pockets.
Yeah. So this choice thing is kind of like you can buy your gas from Simcoe, you can buy it from Consumers Power, whatever you want, but it's your choice.
It's your choice.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right. I think that's got it for this time.
Wish we had more time because there's a lot more to talk about.
Maybe we're going to have to make this an hour show.
Come to the coffee and conversation. We'll talk even more.
All right. I'm Gary Kopp. I'm here with Pete Lucido, your Lansing legislator. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.